Alright, everyone, welcome back to the subscribe, guys. CSEC, it's nice to be back with you. Today we'll be continuing video that we did previously. This will be a continuation of the 2015 paper 2 social studies. So with that said, let's actually start this paper without further ado. Um, so as it relegates to the subject area, and in general everything, I have been a bit absent for, I won't say long, probably like a week. Um, Anyways, consistency is a very big thing when it comes to making YouTube videos. And I don't know how long I will continue doing it, but it depends on the amount of support. If I have the support in relation to making videos on YouTube, I will continue to do that. If not, I will have to um, probably use different incentives to actually get that viewership up. Viewership right now, guys, if you, I don't know, probably some of you guys who watch this video a year later from now, or 2 years, or even 3 years later from now. And to be very blunt, right now, as of right now, the viewership is very low. Anyways, let me just stop down with that. Let's actually start working the paper. So it says here, state state two rights, which is sense of Caribbean countries are guaranteed under their national constitution. So first of all, if you're looking at freedom of speech, so freedom of speech is one thing, which means the ability to voice your opinions. When we say you have freedom of speech, we simply mean that you have a right to say your opinions, you have a right to say your thoughts. So freedom of speech on freedom of choice as it relates to the law. So there are mainly two freedoms, or two preferential choice when it comes to choices. Whenever you're, so you have freedom of speech, meaning that you have a right, you have a legal right to say if the government is doing the road bad, or if the government is doing something bad. You have the legality to say, or you have the freedom of choice, or freedom of speech in this case, to be more particulate, to say that this, we need more development in this area, you are doing this wrong, and the government could take your words into consideration. Secondly, we have freedom of choice, meaning that you could do what you want. The government, at least to a certain extent, at least in my opinion, the government controls us, I would say, like 70%. The government controls us to a great extent, right? So freedom of choice is limited, but it means that you could do what you want as it relates to the law. We don't want you to just go kill someone because that would be legal. You have freedom of choice in that regards. So state two services that the government provides for its citizens: um socialization, the socialization process. This is through public schools. So one of the things, or one of the services that governments provides for citizens, and when I mean provide, I mean unilaterally. I mean, what do they do for the country as a whole? So one of the things that governments usually do is the socialization process, and this is usually through public schools. When your child goes to school, the teachers teach them how they should operate in society, how they should be, what is right from wrong. They teach them basic morality, and when I say morality, I simply mean those things that are right and those things that are wrong. That is what morality is, the things that are acceptable in society and the things that are unacceptable in society. So that's what we mean by morality. The second thing that our second service is transportation. So whenever we refer to so one of the major services that governments usually provide is transportation. Transportation just simply means that they provide, at least in the roads and stuff like that, as relegates to that, they provide services in that regards. If you guys don't know, I know if you guys could see on the screen properly right here, probably not, but I am a citizen of Guyana, if you guys could see there. And something that you guys need to know that I did had, I think is a very while back. I don't get paid in any regards to make a content, so I just want to get that out there. I'm not in the territory or in a place, at least with the YouTube monetization policies, where I could actually even receive it. So I'm doing this because I just like teaching and I just like doing it, right? So transportation means that they create roads. They create roads and they create a means of actually commuting from point A to point B. That's why the methods of taxation and taxation in itself is prevalent. And later in the future, I will make a playlist on YouTube on social studies terms that you need to know. And something that you do need to know that is very vital. It's a very important term. I just put it right on top there right now. Um, I don't think is oh yeah, methods of taxation. So there's different methods of taxation, right? And something that you really need to know is that the taxation process aids the government, at least in our economy, where the economy at least I am in, or in most Caribbean economies. I would say an average of 30 something percent, or majority would say, of government revenue does not come from natural resources. It does not come from anything. It comes from certain things, like for example, probably if you have good natural resources like gold or diamond or bauxite or some related minerals, you will have a definitive, or you will have a sub, or at least a marginal amount of revenue from those means of income. However, I would say, at least from the data I have seen, right? Because I don't like I could see something, I could see a source and I could really point out that source. So from at least the data that I have seen from majority of the Caribbean economies, is that something that you will presumptuously notice is that we are most countries in the world. This is a unilateral thing. Most countries in the world get their money from taxes, and those taxes are used to develop um, government infrastructure such as public schools, and those public schools provide jobs for citizens. And they use that same money which they have from taxation. We'll discuss the methods of taxation, right, in a later video. We'll not talk about that right now because that will take probably a little while. So they use that money they have from taxes in order to create roads, in order to make means of transportation available. So let's go on to the other question. Outline two challenges that the government may experience providing services for citizens. So the first thing is passing the bill. passing the bill through means of law. And this might sound a bit weird, right? A second challenge they will have is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is positive for us, but in the case of a government, it could be negative. Like for example, in most economies around the world, if the government wants or for example they want to develop their military because they believe that countries might want to invade them. They believe that something very negative will happen. However, the citizens of that country might say that you're just preparing for war. You just want wars. You just want things negative like that to happen. So the government will have to challenge freedom of speech in most some cases, right? So one the biggest the which is a gigantic problem, at least in my opinion, that 100% of governments are 100% probably in more autocratic economies, the major challenge democratic countries have to face is passing the bill through a means of law or passing it through some court of law, right? This is a challenge experienced by all economies in the world. So when it comes back down to um, providing services for citizens, the first thing that the government need to do is get funds, use that fund to build the facility, and then they use that facility to employ persons. But before they could even get the funds, they need to pass that fund or that spending bill through a court of law or through some body of law. So that is one of the biggest challenges that 98% of governments experience, at least at some point. So, yes. So we're at C now. Suggest three strategies that a government may use to create employment opportunities. Explain fully what each strategy suggests in CI is likely to be successful. So let's just underline the main points, at least in this scenario. So they said here, suggest three strategies. Right, they just underline that. Government may use to create employment opportunities. So one of the things that they could do is part-time work or underemployment. A lot of you guys might not know what underemployment is. Underemployment, it does not mean that you are unemployed. It does not mean that you don't have a job. Underemployment just simply means that you are working, but you're not working permanently, meaning that you are working temporarily. So in some countries, they might give a person a week or a 3 days work per week, and they just work 3 days per week every single week. So underemployment is something that the government could do. So that is strategy number one. We supposed to give at least two strategies. Um, increase no. So if you were to go back here, let's read about the question. Suggest three strategies that the government may use to create employment opportunities. Something that the government could do is do something called government or business incentives or government cuts. It means to financial obligations. This simply means that the government could actually pass laws to decrease the amount of taxes on businesses. When they when they decrease the amount of taxes on business, the business will have more capital to actually employ more persons. So that's something that they could do. So as we said in the first, part-time work or underemployment, which means that they could pass underemployment opportunities the person so that they could work probably like 7 days a month or 15 days a month, and they just take the rest off. So it would be a temporary job. um Provide local job opportunities. A good example of local job opportunities, at least in most countries, would be like they would, like for example, in the case of like building roads or building a public facility, at least publicized by the government, they could actually employ local personnels in that body or in that jurisdiction. They could actually employ local persons to build these public facilities like schools, like roads, etc., etc., and they could provide jobs for persons by creating those employment opportunities in those areas. So yes, we are going on to section B. I will take it right here. I won't make this video long because I know your guys' retentions are not high. It is very low to sadly state. So with that said, see you guys out on the next video. The study prep guy is here with you, and I will see you guys probably till next week or probably a couple of days from now. With guys, all the best.